Go Big Red! The takes, the numbers, the chaos. Hunter Austin Dak. Talking Cornhusker football, basketball, and everything Nebraska sports. Welcome to the Return to Glory podcast.
Return to Glory podcast. Hunter Sarbanicki and Austin Rose here Tuesday morning. We are live on YouTube here every morning at 6:20 or 6:30, whenever we decide to start. And we will be having our recording on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you can listen to your podcast. Feel free to go on, give us a like, 5-star rating, leave a comment or review. That helps us out, gets us out there, more visibility. Today's topic is identity. Austin, I want to start with one question for you. Take the red N off of those white helmets and put us in some plain white jerseys. There's 20 plays that you get to watch for Nebraska. Can you tell me what program you're watching?
That's an interesting question. If it's on Halloween, they're going to be black helmets with a horrible reflector red. We can circle back to that at some point. It depends on which team, because I was thinking about this the other day because Temple. I was watching the new Jack Reacher season, which is okay for those of you interested on Amazon Prime. I don't know if anyone watches it, but it's fine. But one of the kids, the son of the person who kills himself, plays at Temple. And I was thinking about it, and there were times last year where it just felt like we just weren't a big program. And so I'm thinking about the plays that we're calling, and it just kind of felt disheveled. I think it got a little bit more clear when Raiola went out. But what team are we if we take the N off? We're a team, like I said, if you ask based off the bowl game, we're a team that we're going to run the ball because we don't have any offensive firepower behind the line to throw it. Because that's what we tried to do, and it did not work. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. We've been a little chameleon-y with whatever players we can have. Last year we were much more of the team that's like, okay, we're going to try to run the ball 3 times or do a short pass. You know, the conservative offenses that kind of dink and dunk their way down the field. And honestly, our offense wasn't bad last year when you look at the numbers. It just didn't feel great because we lost a lot of games by a lot of points that we wanted to win. I think that's what we are. I think we're a conservative offense.
Well, I say the fact that he struggled to answer that question, I think is a good segue into our conversation today, and what this identity means. So, to me, when I say identity, I necessarily don't think like play calling's I guess a part of it, but I don't think about what formation are we in.
Right.
Part of that is I think identity is it's part of your scheme, like your scheme's part of it, but I do think identity is deeper than that. It's your football like constitution on how do you believe football games are won. And to me, I see like 2 extremes with it. One, and you touched on this already. One is I have a system, it works. I don't care who is a part of it. I'm doing this. And this is what I believe in. The other extreme is every year you take players that you have on your roster, and I'm going to run what fits them the best and what I believe fits them the best. I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle of that, and I lean more. You have to have an identity to believe what you do, so that way you can recruit the players to fit that identity. If you don't have an identity, you're just trying to fit your players. I don't think that's a smart move. Now, some coaches do that. And I think you saw maybe a version of that with Dylan Raiola last year. So, like, where are you at on that spectrum overall?
The spectrum being we have no.
Just
Or,
when
oh,
if you were a coach, like
if I was a coach, I'm definitely more. If you're saying, um, we have something that's what we do, and then the other one is we're total chameleon to our players. I'm definitely more on the this is what we do. Like I want to be, and I find myself that way. Like when I play 2K, when I'm playing, managers, like I want you to be big, physical. With my guys, I'm not going to be the space and pace offense. I'm going to have big post players that I like using, and I want to be defensive based. Because that's how I just like.
that is your identity.
That's my identity. That's why I like in 2K. That's why I like in Madden. There's just there's a certain way in which I like to play board games. It's like I want to be, you know, I've played Risk Legacy. For those of you nerds out there who have played several rounds of Risk Legacy, probably not anyone listening to this podcast. But it's always like I want to be hard to kill and easy to move. That's always been kind of like my board game preference. And so like I have like kind of how I want to do things, and I'd say for football, it's definitely the same way. I want to be primarily like big, strong defense, tough to move, but flexible on the offensive side.
And yeah, I think what I believe too, having an identity, a system, a belief on how you think wins games, which is what you described, then the biggest reason why it matters is when you're building a team, when you have the ability to build a team. Now, at all levels of coaching in sports, you don't always have that freedom. Obviously, you go down to the high school level. Well, it's changing a lot now, but you're kind of given what you got. Now, there's development in high school till you can develop people to your identity and what you believe in and coach to that. But as far as the players' talents goes, you don't have as much say. NFL, I guess, is kind of, I would say, college is probably maybe where you have the most control because you really can pick and choose your players as a coach more so
Bigger
now.
pool.
There's general managers now and there's more, but NFL, I mean, sometimes your coach, especially you go to NBA, like you're given what the owners and the GMs and all of the front office gives you, and you're in charge of coming out, especially because coaches don't get some long strings anymore in the NBA and NFL. We are slowly getting back here. I think lost connection with Austin. I think we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
We're
What
back.
happened to you?
We're back. Uh, so yeah, I guess the key thing is I think in college your identity matters the most because you are truly recruiting and getting players as a coach and as a program to fit what you want. So, I mean, I think the best example here is what Cignetti did at Indiana, and it might not be getting a lot of the highest, most star recruits, but the guys that he got that he brought over from James Madison and brought in to fill those gaps were fitting exactly what he wanted. Obviously, it worked. Now, I think that's an extreme. And the Indiana thing, as we've talked about, is been very impressive. We'll see if he can do it in a third year, but I think that's a little bit of an extreme of how it worked. But also at the same time, it tells you it can work in today's environment in college football if you know exactly what you want to win football games. And you want to talk about the Cignettiisms, when you ask him, hey, what do you think's happening, or how do you win games? And he lists off like 15 one-word answers. Like that's his identity. Those are the things that he believes in, and that's what he's recruiting to for his players. So, all that being said, you started, Austin, a little bit on your philosophy, I guess, on what you thought. What if you were Dana Holgorsen, let's even say an offensive coordinator, and if you want to talk about defense too, like what are the most important things that you are preaching for your offense and or defense, if you were in charge of a team?
Most important things I preach for the offensive defense. I'm more in the I am in the run the ball group, so I'm gonna preach the importance of no negative plays. Like, if they get we're not gonna get tackled behind the line of scrimmage. We're gonna try to move the ball forward. No negative plays. Um, conservative aggressivism. It's like, hey, we're gonna take shots, but we're gonna know when to take the shots. Uh, it's like I said, it's kind of funny. I'm thinking back to, like, when I play Madden, what do I want? I want my tight ends involved. I want my running backs. I want my quarterback mobile. Um, what Holgerson should be preaching though is, hey, this is, you know, we have a big offensive line, and we had an old offensive line last year, but this, I think, we haven't seen any games played, but this is likely going to be the best offensive line we've seen in Rule's tenure. I could be optimistic and maybe misreading the situation, but I think Holgerson is going to be. I know Emmett Johnson's gone, but we're going to do the exact same thing last year, except we're going to execute in the red zone. I think that's what he's saying this year.
Yeah, and yeah, I like your answer. I think actually we're very similar in our identity. I think to Nebraska's point, I'll say this first. There's a difference too in speaking your identity and what you think you want to do, which we are kings of that, as we know here in Nebraska, of saying this is what this is who we are and what you should be excited about from a fan
We're
base.
that person that in college they used to work out 3 times a week in college, but now they're 40 years old. They're like, oh yeah, I'm a big lifter, and it's like, when was the last time you lifted? It's like, well, you know, I had knee issues and
Like so,
did a little bit. And,
we've heard what we believe, but I think there's the second part of that obviously is seeing that execute on the field. Because you can say what you want. I mean, we're believing in a running quarterback this year, right? That's what was said. That wasn't said last year, clearly. Because if it was, we would have tried to get Dylan to be a very different type of QB. So that's where your identity can change, but the lack of what you exactly want as a coach, I think matters. I'm the same way. Like you probably know, I want a mobile quarterback, and I'm running this mobile quarterback often, and I'm recruiting multiple guys that can also run this, and this fits well to us because I do think when TJ Lateef comes in this year, if he has to, we don't have to change our entire offensive system because we have two guys that are capable of doing that. So I think it's a positive. I think you are running the ball, efficiently enough so you can set up a play action pass in a short passing game. I'm not. It's a grinded out approach. Yes, it's ugly like Iowa. Like I think until you are a top 5 team where you have the capability to get the best athletes in the country and exploit some things, you have to set up a game plan that gives you a chance to win against teams that are just flat out better than you. And that involves milking the clock, establishing a run game, being able to be creative with your scheme. Defensively, you can go multiple ways of being very aggressive. You have the bend but no break. We've gone down that route. Obviously, you can talk about the different formations. Man versus zone coverage. What do you more believe in there? I'm a big bend don't break guy, and then once you get to the red zone, you put the straps on and go. Like, let the offense mess up. That's my belief on defense in football. I'm not. I hate big plays. Just they feel like a knife in the heart when someone gets a big
They're
play.
momentum killers.
They are. Now that might mean you're giving up a lot of yards throughout the game. I get that. But I think you're really good teams. Maybe that means you got to change some things up. But a lot of teams, when you're playing Nebraska in the mirror, they're gonna mess up at some point. So that's my thought on defense. the last question before we jump into more Nebraska's here, like I Austin, I wanted to ask. I don't think I've ever asked you this yet. I've asked a lot of people. Maybe I did. Name the 4 most important positions, individual positions. And this is part of your identity, right? This will help define this on both offense and they can be offense or defensive positions. But if you had to get the 4 best players of this position in the country, what 4
Yep.
positions would you pick?
So the way I'm going to assess how I do this is when I do when I'm running a team on Madden. So this is my typical approach is I'm taking either an elite defensive tackle or edge. Round 1. Round 2, I'm probably taking a quarterback, and then round 3 and 4, I'm taking whatever 2. If this is anything, I'm probably taking a tackle and a center. That's how in Madden, that's how I like to draft, and that's probably what I would do if I was could have any 4. Those are the 4 I want.
Yeah, so we align a lot with that, and I think that speaks to the importance of a run game and a strong offensive and defensive line. You got to have a playmaker. I'm going quarterback, center, edge rusher, and probably a middle linebacker for me, because to me that's your quarterback or your defense. So
Yeah.
I think tackles in there next. Wide receiver, I've been a little bit swayed on. I think it helps. I don't know that it's necessarily a game changer, but I do think having a good wide receiver is very impactful. Running backs, I'm kind of the opposite on. I think your running backs, especially in today's game, committees are totally okay if you have a really strong offensive line. And the other position that's got brought up a lot when I've asked is corner. And I agree, having one is good. It also kind of fits into your scheme a little bit. I think some people are thinking we need a corner to lock down an opposing team's stud receiver. Well, that's if you're playing strictly man all the time, and that's great. I mean, if that's what you're thinking, I'm a more mix it up type of person, keep them off balance. I'm playing a lot more zone, different types of zone blitzes and all of that. So, anyways, mental identity here. I want to talk about this a bit too. We talk a lot about strategy. I also think you have to remember there's a culture side to your identity as well in how the players fit in, and this actually is fitting because yesterday Tyke Hayes, the Penn State, Iowa Western former from those 2 schools, and now got brought on as running back here, as we thought maybe would be a Band-Aid for Makai Nelson. Makai Nelson seems to be playing and back with the team. And now Tyke Hayes has been let go and released. And I don't know that is because of anything that he did or if it wasn't a culture fit, but I'm just guessing that maybe it just didn't work out well here with the locker room. And I think having your standard of what the locker room is about, and how you're handling players. For me, the number one thing with identity there is accountability and toughness. And to me, those 2 things kind of go hand in hand. I also think those words get thrown around everywhere, not just in sports, but in the business world and in life. And everybody has their own definition of what those are, and how to handle those, and what accountability means, how to hold somebody accountable. I think all those things are unique to the coach. I think those things to me are most important in a culture and an identity in the locker room.
I do think Matt Rule has done a decent job, but whenever anyone interviews or talks, I feel like it does come out through his players. They are all kind of saying the same thing, and I do think he hammers it home with them for the most part. And as far as locker rooms go, it's been a pretty drama-free run over the last 4 years. There hasn't been a lot of incidents where it's like, oh man, how are we going to handle this? He's been pretty swift on like, hey, this dude's gone. this isn't like Tyke Hayes isn't like the first guy, and again we don't know why he's gone, but he's been pretty consistent on how he handles his players internally. Does it make you a little bit sick that there's that part of you that just wishes you were Iowa?
Yeah, and you want to talk about an extreme of identities uh, as we jump into Nebraska here and what our identity is. Like, I that's why I think a little bit the hatred, not hatred, well, it is hatred, but you
Is it
despise
jealousy?
Iowa is a little bit of jealousy for me. It's a little bit of like that's kind of what I believe in now. I think there's things obviously to tweak it and make it better, but like your core substance of what Kirk Ferentz has done at Iowa is kind of what I would do a little bit if I was a football coach and had the program.
Maybe a little better offensive decision making. I probably wouldn't have kept Brian around quite as long as I did when I'm only putting up 6 points a game, but
Yeah, and that maybe was a little family impact. I don't know, but yeah, it's one of those things. Like now, so now you look at Nebraska, and this is the question, and we'll talk a ton more about identity here for us as we get into the season and what that means, because every year it seems like this comes up, and I think that this identity question sometimes is becoming media speak or fan speak, and coaches might say, it doesn't you guys don't really understand. Like this is what we're dealing with. Well, to a point, yes, but if you just oversimplify it, like if you don't know what you believe in as a coach, like that's a problem, and
yeah.
you have to know. You can't just every year take it in more puzzle pieces and try to fit them in on how they're going to work. So I think the question is like we know what Iowa is, right? Like you take the ugly gold off the black helmets of the Iowa and watch them play. That looks like Iowa football. Like you could say that Nebraska. That's where we don't know. And
I
what we
would say traditionally, it's kind of like universities have their identities. Traditionally, we've been a mobile quarterback, run heavy, and I would say mostly conservative defense. I wouldn't say we've ever really been.
well, what one of the most established pronounced identities in college football history is the Nebraska option. And
Yes.
like that is one like that if you started showing clips of that, people would be like, that's Nebraska in the 90s. That is
Yep.
very, very established of what that was. And it was built upon the pipeline and the weightlifting and these big and then let's go to a second identity, and it's also just the black shirts on defense. That was the black shirts itself was an identity, and those are two different, right? The option's more schematic based identities. Black shirts is not a schematic. The black shirts was a culture. The black shirts was that's an identity of who you were. We've had it,
Yeah.
and so that's what I'm saying is like we're so far away from that and gone from that where I don't know where we're at now. And that's the question we've been asking, and we've been bouncing around and changing coordinators and changing schemes, and it comes down to knowing what you want as a program and as a head coach and sticking to that, recruiting guys to that, because yeah, like any new coach and program, it sucks when you're changing it because you have to try to get different types of people to fit that. And yeah, you get a 5-star and Dylan Raiola in here, it makes it tough because you want to get him in here, but maybe he doesn't fit what you want. Well, now you got to adjust everything, and it just throws everything off. So
I think.
I
Oh,
don't
go
know.
for it. Finish it. I
I
was gonna say. I
that's just
think.
my the general thought. I don't think we know what we want, and therefore, and I'm not saying just rule. This has gone. You look at Scott Frost. I would say he was worse than Rule of not knowing what the hell he wanted. We went all over the board with him. Now, what's funny is if you ask someone what's Matt Rule's philosophy or identity, and you ask somebody what Scott Frost, you would have a better answer with Scott Frost. Now, does it match what I think that it should be? No, not at all. But you can maybe at least define what he wants or what he wanted. He just didn't get the players, and it didn't work
Yeah.
here.
I think I agree. And I think that's kind of what Rule is too. I mean, he wants a mobile quarterback because when he first got here, he's like, I got Jeff Sims, boom, and then we got Dylan Raiola, and he's like, I totally agree with like that. Okay, this guy the number one quarterback in the recruit class wants to come here. Like, we're gonna take him, and when you have arm talent, it's like we're gonna figure this out. And we just didn't figure it out. I mean, part of that was he broke his leg when maybe we were gonna figure. Last year would have been the year to figure it out, and we brought in a coordinator to better fit him, and you put your chips in on a guy and it didn't work. And I think this is the year where it's like, okay, we're resetting. Like, this is what we wanted. I want a mobile quarterback. I want an offensive line. We're gonna spend our money. That's the whole other thing about it. It's easier to now you have to spend money to establish your identity.
Correct.
Which, when you're paying your quarterback, however much we were paying Dylan Raiola, that impacts where you're spending money elsewhere. We've talked about that plenty. But I do think this is what Rule wants: a mobile quarterback with a big offensive line. And on his defensive side, he wants a flexible defense. That's why I think he was drawn to the 3-5. Just that, hey, we can move our pieces around. Not quite the all of our basketball players are 6'7" and can pass the ball kind of defense, but I do think that's kind of what more of his vision is.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, we will talk a lot more about this conversation here. I think we set a really good baseline and ground of what this means for Nebraska, and I guess I want to leave you guys with this. I think this is very important. Identity is not what you put on a graphic and what you say it is. It's when opponents are out there, it's what they're preparing for. It's what recruits when you're recruiting. It's what you're recruiting for. And then when a game is on the line and you need a stop on 3rd and 4, or you need a first down on 3rd and 2, like it's what your players are going to fall back on and believe, because that's what you've instilled in them. So I don't think it's something you can necessarily announce and put out there on a billboard and say, this is what Nebraska football is. You have to demonstrate it until everybody else starts describing you that way and catches on. And your gameplay and the results dictate what your identity is by going out and winning football games. So it all still goes back to that. And I think that's what we're wanting to see here in 2026. So real quick, I know you mentioned earlier, we do know the Halloween game is the blackout game. It's Washington at home. You get your tickets bought yet?
It sounds like I might be able to get a ticket to any game whenever I want this year for way cheaper. I have not bought my tickets.
Well, I think my sign up for my basketball tickets is tomorrow, so I might be getting basketball tickets. So
there you go.
That's maybe what the excitement is more for this year.
I know we're talking football, but I am one. Jamarcus Lawrence isn't coming back. 2, volleyball scrimmage. Dude, we're gonna be so freaking good this year. I know we have a really hard schedule, and we're not gonna go totally undefeated, and we'll probably break my heart again in the tournament. But I am more excited for basketball and volleyball than I am for football. That being said, I am excited for football. It's warming up, but gosh, we're going to be so freaking good for volleyball. It's crazy.
Well, we'll let you do a little bit of a volleyball segment here.
I'll get to it.
So give us a preview.
We got 9 days before our first match, I believe. 10 days, something like that.
Then tomorrow we have Wacky Dacky Wednesday.
Oh boy!
Tune in tomorrow morning at 6:20, live on YouTube. Go Big Red.
GBR.
The headlines change, but the mission stays. From Memorial Stadium to PBA days, football Saturdays, basketball nights, every story chasing red and white. Recruiting buzz, big time commits, camp battles, coaching hits, transfer moves and rising stars. The road to glory's never far. This is Return to Glory, where every headline tells the story. Big Red Pride.